English Politics Podcast.
English Politics Podcast.
English Politics Podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to English Politics Podcast. I'm thrilled to have you here as we explore today's fascinating episode, Time for Power, a conversation with Donald J. Trump on political strategy and influence. For those joining us for the first time, English Politics Podcast is where we delve into the intricate world of politics, strategy, and the powerful personalities that shape our global landscape. Today, we're joined by none other than Mr. Donald J. Trump, the 45th President of the United States, renowned real estate developer and author. Mr. Trump has a long history of influencing political strategy, both on a personal and national level. His journey from business to politics was watched closely by millions, marking him as one of the most influential figures in modern American politics. In this episode, we'll talk about strategy, power dynamics, and the role of influence in political leadership. We'll discuss what he learned from his unique experiences in the Oval Office, the evolving landscape of American politics, and his insights into what it takes to wield power effectively in today's world. Mr. Trump, thank you for joining us. It's an honor to have you on the show.
Thank you, Ms. Moderator. It's great to be here. I'm looking forward to discussing these important topics. Politics and strategy are areas where I think we could all use a bit of clarity, and I'm happy to offer my perspective.
Wonderful. Mr. Trump, I know our audience is eager to dive into the topics of political power and influence with you. So let's get right into our discussion, starting with some questions our listeners are eager to have you address. Mr. Trump, you've often spoken about the concept of power and influence, especially in terms of leadership. Can you explain what power means to you, and how has your understanding of it evolved over the years?
Power, as I see it, isn't just about position or title. It's about the ability to influence, to inspire, and to bring people together toward a common goal. When I was running my business, power was about making decisions that impacted the bottom line and created jobs. In the political arena, though, power is about much more than that. It's about understanding people's needs, using influence wisely, and making choices that might not always be popular but are ultimately beneficial for the country. Over time, my view of power shifted from being purely results-driven to focusing on impact. What legacy will you leave? What mark will you make on society?
How do you approach strategy, particularly when dealing with complex political issues or competing viewpoints?
Strategy in politics is a lot like strategy in business. You have to weigh every option, anticipate your opponents, and know your audience. However, in politics, there's an added layer of public accountability and media scrutiny. My approach has always been direct. I believe in addressing issues head-on, not dodging or sidestepping them. People respect honesty, even if they don't agree with you. When dealing with complex issues, I gather advice, listen to different perspectives, but in the end, you have to trust your instincts. Strategy is about balance, knowing when to hold your ground and when to compromise to achieve the best outcome.
Can you share some thoughts on influence, particularly on how leaders can use their influence to unite or divide?
Influence is a powerful tool, and leaders have to be careful with how they wield it. My belief is that influence should be used to empower people and bring them together. Unfortunately, influence can also be used negatively, to stoke division or create an us versus them mentality. I've always aimed to use influence to highlight issues that affect Americans and to rally them toward solutions. Good leaders influence for positive change. They listen, empathize, and encourage action that benefits the majority. Influence should never be used selfishly or to serve personal gains, but rather to uplift and unite communities.
Finally, Mr. Trump, in today's politically polarized environment, what advice do you have for emerging leaders looking to make a positive impact?
My advice is simple. Stay true to your values. Don't be swayed by public opinion, and have a clear mission. Politics can be tough, and it's easy to get caught up in the noise. But young leaders should focus on what they truly believe in and not waver under pressure. They should understand that criticism is part of the process. No matter what, some people will disagree. What matters is having the integrity to do what's right, even when it's difficult. Emerging leaders should also focus on communication, explaining their vision clearly, listening to others, and building bridges. At the end of the day, good leadership is about service, not self-interest.
Comprehensive story, the strategy that changed the game. In a politically polarized world, people often wondered, what makes a leader great? Is it charisma, experience, or the courage to make difficult decisions? These were the questions that shadowed Elizabeth Stone, a young politician with a passion for positive change, as she campaigned for her first seat in the national government. Elizabeth wasn't a traditional politician. She was a newcomer, an outsider with fresh ideas and a fierce commitment to her principles. But in the volatile world of politics, her idealism would soon be tested. Elizabeth's journey began in Cedarville, a small town struggling under the weight of economic downturns and political neglect. Known for her candid approach, she often held community meetings where she listened to residents and shared her ideas for change. As her popularity grew, so did the attention of Cedarville's political elite. They were skeptical. After all, what could a 30-year-old with little experience know about the complexities of governance? One evening, after a particularly heated debate at a town hall meeting, Elizabeth received an invitation from the local governor, Martin Hale, a seasoned politician known for his sharp mind and even sharper elbows in political dealings. Governor Hale had ruled Cedarville's political landscape for decades, building his influence on a blend of calculated favors and political connections. His invitation to meet Elizabeth was not a sign of encouragement. Rather, it was a test. When Elizabeth arrived at his office, she was greeted with a firm handshake and a scrutinizing gaze. They exchanged pleasantries before Governor Hale got to the point. "You're ambitious, Miss Stone," he said, leaning back in his chair. "I respect that. But politics isn't just about good ideas. It's about power. And power isn't given. It's taken. Tell me, do you think you have what it takes to navigate that?" Elizabeth looked him in the eye, unflinching. "I believe power comes from the people. If they want change, then my duty is to deliver it. I don't intend to take anything. I intend to earn it." The governor chuckled, a cold sound in the silent room. "Idealism is charming but dangerous. Cedarville's problems are bigger than you think. But let's see what you're made of." Elizabeth left the meeting undeterred, but she knew her path wouldn't be easy. Politics wasn't just about policy. It was about alliances, maneuvering, and often compromise. But she was determined to stay true to her beliefs. The first challenge, a polarized community. As Elizabeth's campaign gained momentum, she encountered her first major obstacle, division within her own base. Cedarville's residents were split between those who supported her progressive ideas and those who feared that change would disrupt their traditional way of life. One faction wanted increased government support for businesses, while another pushed for stronger regulations to protect workers' rights. To bridge this divide, Elizabeth organized a series of open forums where residents could voice their concerns. She listened carefully, recognizing that each side had valid arguments. She proposed a plan that balanced the needs of both groups, offering incentives for businesses to create fair-wage jobs while ensuring protections for workers. It was a delicate compromise, but it worked. Elizabeth had managed to unify her community around a common goal, proving her adaptability and strength as a leader. But not everyone was pleased. Her growing support base caught the attention of powerful business leaders and other politicians who saw her as a threat. Governor Hale watched from a distance, impressed but wary. Elizabeth's success was beginning to challenge the established power dynamics in Cedarville, and Hale wasn't about to relinquish his hold without a fight. The turning point, a strategic decision. With Election Day approaching, Elizabeth's opponents intensified their efforts to discredit her. Negative ads flooded the local media, portraying her as inexperienced and naive. Rumors circulated, claiming she was out of touch with Cedarville's true values. Yet, Elizabeth held firm, refusing to engage in the mudslinging that had become typical of local campaigns. However, the pressure was mounting. Elizabeth's campaign advisor, Sarah, urged her to respond with a counterattack. "You can't just sit back and let them define you, Liz. If you don't respond, they'll paint a picture you can't erase." Elizabeth was torn. She had promised herself she wouldn't play dirty, but she knew that staying silent could cost her the election. After a sleepless night, she made a decision. She would confront her opponents, not by attacking them, but by doubling down on her message of unity and transparency. In a public statement, she addressed the rumors directly, acknowledging her inexperience but highlighting her genuine commitment to Cedarville. "I may be new to politics, but I know Cedarville," she said in her speech. "I've lived here my whole life, and I understand our struggles. I'm here to work for you, not to tear others down. I believe we're better than this, and I know you do too." The speech was a risk, but it resonated with the people. Rather than descending into the fray, Elizabeth had taken the high road, earning the respect of even some of her critics. Her campaign gained traction, and soon, she found herself leading in the polls. The test of loyalty. With her lead secure, Governor Hale approached Elizabeth again, this time with an offer. He proposed an alliance, suggesting that together they could create a formidable political team. "You're talented, Elizabeth," he told her. "But talent alone doesn't win elections. Influence does. Join me, and I'll make sure you have the resources to achieve everything you've dreamed of for Cedarville." Elizabeth considered his offer. Hale had the power and connections to ensure her victory. Aligning with him would guarantee access to resources and influence that she couldn't achieve alone. But accepting his support would mean compromising her independence and potentially her ideals. It would mean being tied to someone whose methods and values she didn't fully trust. In the end, she declined. "I appreciate the offer, Governor, but I believe in a different kind of politics. I want to build my influence on trust, not favors." Her decision was met with skepticism from her advisors and criticism from her opponents. But Elizabeth held firm, trusting that her commitment to transparency and integrity would resonate with voters. The election night. On election night, the town hall was packed with supporters, anxiously awaiting the results. Elizabeth's team was hopeful, but tensions were high. If she lost, it would be a victory for the old guard, a sign that Cedarville wasn't ready for the change she represented. As the final votes were tallied, the announcement came. Elizabeth Stone had won by a narrow margin. The room erupted in cheers, and Elizabeth felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Her journey had been challenging, but she had stayed true to her beliefs, and the people had placed their trust in her. In her victory speech, Elizabeth spoke from the heart. "Tonight isn't just about me," she said. "It's about all of us. Cedarville has chosen a new path, one of unity, respect, and accountability. I'm honored to serve this community, and I promise to lead with the same principles that brought us here." Aftermath, a legacy of influence. As Elizabeth settled into her role, she remained committed to her vision of transparent and accountable leadership. She worked tirelessly to fulfill her campaign promises, advocating for economic reform, supporting local businesses, and improving the quality of life for Cedarville's residents. Her leadership inspired a new wave of young politicians, individuals who shared her vision of a politics rooted in integrity and empathy. Governor Hale retired soon after, acknowledging that Cedarville had entered a new era. Although he had once viewed Elizabeth as an adversary, he eventually came to respect her tenacity and commitment to her ideals. In an interview, he remarked, "Elizabeth Stone reminded us all that true power isn't about control, it's about trust." She changed the game by staying true to herself, and in doing so, she changed Cedarville for the better. Elizabeth's journey was far from over, but her story had already left a mark. She had proven that in a world dominated by power struggles and compromise, it was possible to lead with integrity. And for Cedarville, she was not just a politician. She was a beacon of hope, a testament to what was possible when one chose to wield influence responsibly. As she walked through the town she had grown up in, she was greeted by smiles and waves from the people whose lives she had touched. Elizabeth Stone had become more than just a leader. She was a symbol of the power of conviction, a reminder that sometimes the greatest victories are won by those who refuse to compromise their principles.
Yes, you were right. All the power is in the hands of the people. This story offers a journey through political trials and triumphs, presenting Elizabeth Stone as a character who embodies strength, integrity, and influence. The narrative reflects the values of unity, trust, and the belief that real power lies in the hands of the people.
That brings us to the end of this insightful episode of the English Politics Podcast. I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to Mr. Donald J. Trump for joining us and sharing his perspectives on political strategy and influence. We hope you found today's discussion thought-provoking and empowering. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider supporting our channel. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and follow us daily for more conversations with leaders and changemakers from around the world. Your support helps us continue to bring these voices to you. Thank you, and we look forward to having you with us on the next episode of English Politics Podcast. Stay informed, stay engaged, and see you next time.